Steve Dickinson here, and this is Presenting Confidence. Right, so we've looked at the introduction, interest, need, title, range, objectives. Your main body is where you would put in the information that you want to give across. Now we're going to look at that in a minute when we cover the elevator pitch, because this is the kind of thing that you can say as you step into an elevator, and we would call it lift, obviously. When you get into a lift and someone says, "Oh, so what are you doing now?" You've got about a minute to get the information across, to maybe get their card. And so when it comes to the main body, we're going to follow the same structure. But the main body is where you get your point across. And you might introduce 2 or 3. I would suggest no more than 3 aspects. Introduce each one, close each one off, then do a little mini reviews during it until finally you get to the summary. Now this is where you, first of all, if you are going to ask for questions, I've got a particular idea for this, because the first thing you say in the summary is you go back to your introduction where you said the range of things you're going to talk about. So I told you I was going to talk about A, B, C and D. Now we've all covered that, haven't we? Hopefully get agreement. Now my objective for this session was, and then say what your objective was. You have the verb, the standard and the constraint. Do you believe I've met these objectives? So you get confirmation. Now, a lot of people then close off and then ask for questions. I say, no, ask for questions before you close. Because I've been there where I've finished off and said, any questions? And then some bright spark in the front row has started talking about their life. Somebody else has disagreed with it. And all of a sudden, I'm just this person standing on stage while I'm looking at a bunch of people having a discussion. So first of all, be very clear that you only want questions. So are there any questions? Now, if you've got any comments or anything else you'd like to share with me or with the group, we could do that afterwards. But specifically, do you have any questions right now to do with what we've just discussed? You will still get somebody else who will try and twist it round. Well, sorry, not still, but sometimes you get people who will insist on giving the impression that they're asking a question, but they're actually promoting themselves or something that they've done. And so that's why I would say, oh, excuse me, can I just get it clear in my mind? Can I please ask you what the question is? So what's the question? So what actually is it you're asking me? You can be quite firm about that. Say, okay, yeah, that's fine, but if you remember, this section is just for questions. So if you wouldn't mind, has anybody else got any questions? Actually, that just reminds me, if you have got a large room, and let's say you're going to ask me a question, I mean, a lot of people come up and talk to you about your question. A presentation, how far have I got before I'm out of it? Come all the way over here and talk about your question, because that way I'm engaging the rest of the room as well. Just a little bit of stagecraft there. Then you do your final bit, which is some kind of powerful summary. Maybe going back to your title. Presenting confidence, understanding, insight, fulfillment, success. Now that's what I have on my website. I hadn't actually associated those two, but I need to say, how do I finish this? I might say, so there you go. Thank you very much for your questions. Thank you very much for your attention, and please remember, success isn't where you think, it's how you think. And then say, sorry, then say thank you for your attention, because that gives them the full stop. Thank you for your attention. And that's their cue to start clapping, maybe. It depends how many people there are there. Okay, so you're happy with that structure? Does that make sense? Good, good. Just a quick thought about notes. Have you probably noticed? Yeah. Can you get that there?
Yep.
Yeah. That is a presentation I wrote a few years ago, and it's done in the form of a mind map. Introduction. Then I went into the main body, structure, the next bit, the importance of an introduction, need, title, range, objectives, main body, and summary. And I found doing that, that's why you got colour pens on, so you can make it more visually memorable. Because if you just got notes, in fact, what I used to do is I'd get an A5 piece of paper. What I'd do in A4, I'd write out my mind map in one colour on A4, and on the other side I'd have my introduction. So interest, need, title, range, objectives, and then I'd shrink it down to A5. So I would have my entire presentation just on a piece of card like that. So I do notes, rehearse. Your notes are only in case you forget. If you're trying to, never try and give a presentation about something you don't know about something about which you do not know. So I would have that, I'd have it rehearsed, and I got there, I think, oh no, I'm beginning to, it gives me the confidence. And so I just turn over and got the confidence that I've got everything there and I can restart. And then I was talking to an engineer from Ford of Europe. This was way back in the early 90s. And he said, well, why bother with that? Why don't you just blow it up to A3 and have it on the desk next to you? That way you can just glance down. Nobody knows you've got notes. You can walk around, engage with the audience, and then just come back and just glance down. So I have actually got a mind map there, which is the beginning of my business. Reality management. And it goes through, I mean, there's a lot of information on there. I could probably talk for 5 hours on that. Now, I started off with a handheld one, and I scanned it, and then, because it just looked like a child of 3 had written it, really. I was trying to do different colours, and the crayons, the pencils didn't work. And I just looked at it, and it wasn't giving me the information I needed. And so I scanned it, and then typed over it on, I think it was PowerPoint. And then slowly, over a period of months, it grew into something that had my entire business idea all on that one sheet. And so at any point, I'd have something like that, maybe an A4, but I'd have that in the car, and I was ready to do a presentation on, and not necessarily on all of it, but it was there in such a way that I could see it easily. I know that I'm going around a clock face. I start in the top section, sort of 1 o'clock, and then I go all the way around until I finish. I may even have a big dividing line to make it obvious. And that way I've got a picture of my presentation in my mind. And I'd use these cards here, and I'd do a little mind map for my 1 minute pitch. If it was going to be different to the one I did before, and I'd look at it the night before, and I wouldn't actually have it out while I was in the car, but I would actually rehearse it on the way in. Okay, minute to go, right, go. Hi, I'm Steve. Damn it. Look, tripped over my own name. How good is that? So rehearsing things. Tomorrow morning, you're going to go in and do a 1 minute pitch. Normally, how much do you rehearse it? Yeah, a little bit. Just vaguely what you're going to say. I mean, I'm going to present you with a structure in a minute that will enable you to make a decision as to whether which bits you want to do, if you want to put all the bits in. So we've been through the summary. Now let's have a look at what happens when someone asks you, what do you do? For me, it was an opportunity for me to have a massive logjam of ideas and just end up not saying anything. Or alternatively, using industry jargon and going on for way too long. Because it turns out, the more you know about a subject, the weirder you sound. Because you are using nouns that other people don't know about. You know, the oxidization of this and that, and you know what, I can't think of any accountancy nouns that because I don't know about it. So you start coming out with the weird nouns that accountants use and business development people, and oh dear, I'm not sure I understand that. So can you say it in a way that a 12-year-old child would understand it, first of all? So when someone asks you, so what do you do? You say, well, this is the type of person I work with. I work with business owners and consultants. I work with homeowners. I work with business owners and consultants, and then you go on to talk about the difficulty they've got. I work with homeowners who have expensive furniture and carpets that are continually, or that are going to wear out unless they do something about it. It's going to cost them a fortune. So there's that. What is the problem? What do you help them do? And make sure that that their accountancy is up to scratch, so they don't get any surprises and they don't waste money. And in fact, they use their money more effectively, so they can sleep well at night and create more money. I help them treat their carpets well, so they don't wear out. And I also come around and clean it effectively, so that people aren't continually rubbing dirt into, standing on dirt and just creating that wear. People, and then, so what was it? Who do you work with? What problem have they got? What do you help them do? And what results do they get? Now, I already covered the results. They get more money. They sleep well at night. What results do they get? They're confident that that no one's going to come in and have that musty smell when someone walks through the door because they've got a dog. Well, you can get rid of that by using the right cleaning stuff for them, and then having you come in every now and then to do that next to do the full deep clean. Now, how can you put that into a couple of sentences? So here you've got the 3 points. So who do you work with? What problem do they have? What do you help them do? And what results do they get? And you'll be amazed at how many people, when you talk to them at a networking meeting, will just confuse you. Now, I know a seasoned networker I saw a couple of weeks ago, well, last Tuesday. And he said, well, we cover all the training that you're ever going to need. And someone after he finished said, so what is it you do again? So we work with, it should have been, we work with business owners who have staff. They need first aid training, they need manual handling training, they need health and safety training. We do that at a price that cannot be beaten, with a money-back guarantee, and we're flexible. We'll do it on site, or we'll do it at our own training venue. So you can be rest assured that you hit all the regulations, and you're not going to get fined. So maybe a little more than two sentences, because I was desperately trying to remember what he did and trying to make it up at the same time. So that's what's called an audio logo. And I've just got this thing in my mind where someone says, what do you do? I say, I work with business owners and consultants who get anxious about doing presentations. I help them get rid of that fear, structure their presentations so they can sell themselves and their services effectively, and therefore create more money and to sleep comfortably at night.
So can you say basically the same thing every time you go to the same networking event?
Yeah.
Or you
might shake it up a little bit. You might link it to something that's in the news. Like I was saying, carpet right. Yeah, right. Carpet right. Sorry. So you could link it to something in the news. So why is it the carpet right is? I work with householders that used to just get a carpet, have it for 2 years, rip it up, throw it away, because carpets were just so cheap. Well, now the industry's changing, and carpets, carpet right's going out of business because it's not a successful business model. What people really want to do is to get a quality carpet that looks nice, smells nice, feels nice, and I help them maintain it such that they don't even have to think about a new carpet for 15 years. So that's just linking it. Once again, this is a little bit, we're only talking about a couple of sentences here. If you stand up and do that 1 minute pitch, you can add in a couple of other bits and pieces. First of all, credibility. What makes you credible? Now, I gloss over this. I hardly say anything. I might say, I've been a corporate trainer for 27 years, and that's it. So people go, oh, so he's been training for a long time. That's all they need. Because my credibility is really going to come from my understanding of somebody else's problem. And this is where we're going to talk about niching in a minute. But just to finish off the structure here. So this is these are the three extra bits. You've already got four. Yeah, the three extra bits that you'd add on to a 1 minute pitch. Credibility. I've been doing this for a long time. That's usually enough. A success story. Now you had a great success story with the GPs that you kept in business.
Yep. Black.
Yeah. Might be some people without understanding accountancy might think, what do you mean red and black? What's that about? So, 12-year-old girl.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't know why I said 12-year-old girl. Because my granddaughter's 5. That's not even near 12. But a 12-year-old child. Is a 12-year-old child going to understand the difference between red and black? No, probably not. So use it in a way that anybody without any industry knowledge is going to instantly understand. So yeah, a success story. Now the great thing is people love stories. You know, is everybody sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. I've used a couple of stories to get a point across. If I just start explaining things and how things work, then well, that's actually not my experience. But if I tell a story, well, it's not about your experience. It's a story about somebody else's experience. And you can pretty much rattle through that same process. This is the problem what they had, this is what I helped them do, and these are the results they got. So cram in a success story. So one of mine is, I worked with somebody for just 10 minutes, and 14 months later, he was still earning money as a result of the changes that he made from that 10-minute session. And basically all I did was I stared at him for 10 minutes, said it was the most uncomfortable thing he'd ever done. But 8 minutes into it, he said, oh, I don't want to carry on with this, but I just carried on staring at him. And understanding that he can be looked at without feeling anxious enabled him to approach a networking meeting more effectively, and ended up meeting somebody outside. They met somebody else, and now he's working for a company way over the other side of London. I think 30 people, he's doing the pensions for them. He's also doing their own finance as well because the company trusts him. So he's still earning money out of that 10-minute exercise. Now that's a success story for me because in 1 year he went from 28,000 to projected earnings of 78. So that's an additional £50,000 in 1 year. Now obviously I'd love to say it was all down to me, but his business was growing anyway. But I know it's had a profound impact. And lastly, on your 1 minute pitch, that call to action. Come and talk to me. Give me your business card. Don't leave. No, I was going to say don't leave without giving me your business card. But now I'm going to contradict myself later on with when I'm talking about the importance of language. What I should probably is make sure you give me your business card before you leave. And you can analog mark that. So make sure you give me your business card before you leave. I mean, I don't do it as obvious as that. So that's there's the 1 minute pitch, and it's really worth rehearsing it. As I said, I've got these little cards. You've got your different coloured pens. So each section, there's 7 sections. You can do those sections. You know, first of all, you've got to say your name. I know a lot of people say their name as if it's a question. Oh, hello, I'm Steve Dickinson. Hi. I'm Steve Dickinson. Steve Dickinson. There's power to it. If you go, I'm Steve Dickinson, you know, am I Steve Dickinson? I'm not sure. So, and I've heard, you'll hear a lot of people doing that Australian upturn or to the end of a sentence. And it can sometimes be irritating, especially if you get it all the time. And you think, oh, please could you just finish a sentence on a down? So these are little tonalities, and we'll talk about this afternoon, but the little tonalities there. So who do you work with? What makes you credible? Who do you work with? What problem do they have? What makes you credible? What do you help people do? What results do they get? A success story and a call to action.